let's begin. The water's fine, come on, dive in. The future's here, it's right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. You're welcome to a brighter day. Don't you know it feels good to be alive? You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, and times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today, learn the part and join the play. The world is here, let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. Hopes and dreams, every boy. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Agua. Good morning and welcome back to the channel Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live. And I got kind of a serious topic today that blends a few things, current events, and something I'm constantly asked about. What about the new president? What's going on? So we're going to address a combination of those things. Sound, video, good, awesome, thank you. It says I've got excellent connection. I'm streaming full power. So unless we get throttled down, somebody mentioned Mike. Mike, you mentioned the new intro. Thank you, I appreciate that. The reason, beautiful intro, beautiful intro. The reason I did that, I kind of like my old Have Another Cup of Coffee song. It's a real throwback. But well, this is what I go through. YouTube is they're just, bleh. And I don't know if you heard that. Loud car. Got my windows open. Libby, good morning. If you play a song that more than maybe 3 seconds of a song, used to be like 10 or 15 seconds. Now it's down to like 3 seconds of a song. They can put a copyright strike on you. And there's different levels of it. Some they'll put on you and you can accumulate them and it'll have no real impact. Others, it's a real serious thing. Certain artists, you can really get yourself in trouble. You can get your channel banned. And the thing is, you can get the harmless ones, but as they accumulate, at some point, YouTube can say, you got a pattern here of 30 of these, so we're gonna kick you off the platform. It's crazy, but here's the thing. That Cup of Coffee song, it's over 50 years old. When it's over 50 years old, it goes into public domain. Every time that I would play that intro for the past, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, I would get a strike. and I could dispute it. And so I would put in a dispute saying, look, it's over 50 years old. I searched this, so I knew that it was a fact. It's over 50 years old. There's no copyright ownership to this claim anymore. It's public use. So I'd have to go through that process, and they'd come back a day or two and said, oh, you're right, and they'd remove the strike. Well, I've been doing that, like I said, for the past 6 or 7 months, every single week. I just got so sick and tired of doing it. It's like, how many times do I have to point out? And it's because you've got companies, and it's not always the same one that'll put a strike on me, that just cast the net in hopes that you don't claim anything, and they can actually gather money off it. Sony does it, but there's other smaller companies, and it's just annoying. So I just came up with a bunch of pictures and my normal theme song, and that's where we're going. So that's a deal on that. Rob, first comment. Good morning from Fort Lauderdale. How you doing? Juka, thank you very much. And Juka, I got your contribution, so I thank you for that. Tommy, good morning, everyone. How you doing? Jeff, good morning from Cincinnati. Mike, nice new intro. Thank you. Texas Tater, ditto. Owen, sound video good. Appreciate it. Libby, good morning from Armenia. Just got back from her grand tour of Manizales. Spent a couple days in Pareda. Spent maybe a week in Manizales. And is now in Armenia and getting ready to head home. I love that song. My introduction, I assume. Or do you mean the coffee song? Intro audio levels matched when switched to live. Oh, okay. Congrats. I don't know if I did anything with that, but whatever. All this stuff, I pray for the day when I can get off of YouTube and I can go to another platform. Life will be so much easier, even though I'm sure I'll contend with certain issues. Mike, good morning. How's the broken girl? Alejandra's been staying at Mike's after her motorcycle accident where she was all tore up. And after she got out of the hospital, William and Mike went up to Ibagué to get her out of the hospital and brought her back. And a few days later, she went into some kind of seizures and freaked everybody out. But last I knew, she was doing okay. Few more scars. If it's not a motorcycle, it's a skateboard. It's always something. Yesterday on a pedestrian street here in Armenia. Oh, okay. All right. So we've got, well, first of all, some of you may, I've got one-legged turtle. Yeah, he told me he fell and broke his ankle. He's been in the hospital for a week and he's hobbling around. Sorry to hear that. Let's see, do I have any more here? Is Alejandra the girl with the pizzas? Yes. Yes. There are two kinds of motor riders, those who have fallen and those who will. Well, the only deaths occur on motorcycles. Yeah, it's not good. I'm sure this will come up, especially for you viewers that are in Medellin. Just before I started today, we got this. And I knew to look because I'm up here in my building and it's kind of swaying in the wind. That's what happens when you're on the top floor of a high rise. It's a small one. It's a 4.8. It's over near the border, so it's not even very close to me. But for whatever reason, I I could feel it up here. I'm pretty sure that if you were on the ground floor, even halfway up this building, you probably wouldn't have felt anything. But it's not near here. The 25th, on the 25th of May, so 3 days ago, there were 7 quakes in 24 hours. None here, but there was off the coast of Panama. There was one on the border of Ecuador. There was one off the northwestern coast of Colombia. I didn't feel any of them. They were mostly small, and they're pretty far away. But happens here, happens everywhere. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to talk about the big headlines for this past week, and that is, well, I'll let you read one of the headlines here. 6 million in Colombia, of a country of what? What do we got? 60,000 people? A tenth of the people do not have access to natural gas. Now, that's a pretty serious thing, because a lot of restaurants operate off natural gas, and most stoves in the household operate off natural gas. So when we lost gas, we lost the ability to cook, for a lot of people. And the reason we lost the gas is, I may get some of this wrong. The stories were pulled. I think because maybe they're getting mocked too much over the story. I don't know. But somewhere around Ibagué, there's this major gas pipeline that goes out to Cali, comes through Armenia, covers all of Quindío. It's this major artery. And they had some kind of methane gas fire underground, and they were afraid that there was going to be an explosion. So they had to shut it off. And record time, they did a bypass, some kind of flexible emergency piping. I don't know what. And they did a bypass, and we were up and running again in 2-3 days. They said it would take 9 days, and I saw 9 days. Damn, I doubt how are they going to get done in 9 days. I mean, back in the U.S., we had that probably be, a month. But people, okay, maybe not, but people here really work, and they're very industrious, and they got it up and running in no time. I mean, I barely missed it. I think I had one cold shower. So that was kind of weird, because that pipeline is very near one of those volcanoes that's active. But they were very adamant in proclaiming it had nothing to do with the volcano. So I guess you get pockets of gas that superheat. Somebody can do the math. It was 700 degrees Celsius. So I don't know what that is Fahrenheit. If somebody's got a minute to post that up here, maybe 1,500, 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. I really don't know. And you happen to be near a volcano, but it has nothing to do with that. I mean, is that a common thing to have underground methane fires like that? I don't know. And what made it all the more suspicious is after those stories ran, I can't find them anymore. They're like, they vanished. They just don't want to talk about it. They didn't talk, they just stopped talking about the cause in general. So I thought that was pretty bizarre. But let's see. I'll talk through a few pictures here. Okay, so natural gas supply would return to homes in the next 12 hours. That was, I think, yesterday morning. That's when I got my gas back. I think it was yesterday morning. Days are kind of blending. And the taxis, most of the taxis here in Armenia operate on natural gas. They fill up at a station like that. Now, what a lot of people were doing were just setting up wood fires. And you'll notice that some of these were very large pots, and here they're gathering wood wherever they could find any kind of wood. And one of the issues was a lot of the wood they were picking up was wet, so they had to figure out how to get it dry. But I assume probably everywhere, but here in Armenia, in the barrios, you had mostly the older women organizing basically community or barrio cookouts. So they would set up these big fires and put these big pots, and it was almost all the same. They were cooking up big pots of rice and sancocho. It's kind of a chicken soup with plantain and hunks of chicken in it, and potatoes. It's pretty good. It's a national dish, and it kind of what was going on in all the barrios in the city was kind of a throwback to what they do out on the farms as a normal course of events. But they weren't cooking just for themselves. They were cooking for maybe 10, 15 families, and they're all chipping in, and so that was pretty cool. Let's see, we got Libby. When in Manizales, we had no hot water in the shower, but the stove worked. Oh, I missed another one here. I wish Alejandra a speedy recovery. If I ever make it to Armenia, I plan to try her pizzas. She had to stop doing them because of the inflation. She was losing money doing them. So if things ever settle down, maybe she can go back to it. But her pizza cart is actually at Mike's apartment. We were never without natural gas in Ibagué. Fascinating. You caused the trouble, but you moved it all downstream. I wonder if that's all of Ibagué. Somebody from Ibagué was telling me that they were without, but maybe it was they live in the south part. I don't know. I don't know exactly where it occurred. Okay. So that was probably a one-time event. Most likely will never happen again. Maybe they learned some lessons from it. They're pretty good about doing preventative things here. So, you know, I'd be surprised if that happens again. And even if it does, I imagine they're probably going to be pretty prepared for it. And instead of 2 or 3 days, maybe it'll be like a few hours. All right. Having said that, there is a huge problem, and I ran into this, and I kind of knew this, but as I was searching for more information on this pipeline issue, I kept running into other things, and it kind of relates mostly to the new president, and you guys keep asking me about that, and so I figure, all right, let me kind of give you a rundown of this situation now. Try to be as coordinated as possible on this. First of all, 65% of the electricity generated in Colombia typically comes from hydroelectric dams. So that's pretty good. And then the balance of that is made up for in little production plants run by natural gas. Now, prior to this La Nina, there was an El Nino. And during El Nino, drought hits Colombia. Not in every area, but it hits along the Magdalena River, which is where almost all of the hydroelectric plants are. And so for several years, there was drought in that area. And I'll show you maps here in a little bit. And when there's drought, that means the production, the output, really drops pretty dramatically. So that has to be made up for by natural gas. And so they up the output of the plants that are run by natural gas. Hold on. Anonymous, thank you very much. I'm guessing Anonymous is Jerry. I appreciate it. One of my two ugly friends. It's a joke. Now, right now, currently, the best I can tell, there's 5 new dams under construction, and there's a whole crapload of other dams that are in the planning phase at various points. Gustavo, good morning from Panama. How you doing? Now the problem the problem with the natural gas in Colombia is currently all the known deposits of natural gas are all tapped into. There's none back right now. There's assumptions that there's other places in Colombia for natural gas, but they don't know that. And the deposits they have currently are rather rapidly being depleted because of things like the El Nino. And guess what? As of this summer and this fall, we're going into yet another El Nino. That means they need a new supply of natural gas, and they need it rather urgently. And what happens if they run low on natural gas? I mean, we just saw a taste of it, and it was pretty dramatic. There was some houses that burned down because they tried to hook up LP gas to their natural gas stoves, and the orifices aren't the same. And I won't go into the detail, but it caused some problems. A couple houses burnt. It's not a good thing. And because the natural gas comes out of Colombia, it's really, really cheap. I think my cheapest utility is the natural gas. And that's one of the benefits of it coming from Colombia. So what are they doing right now? Because they're already running into shortages. Well, they're buying it from other countries, primarily out of Venezuela. There were plans to discover new natural gas, and there were investors, because that's the way it's usually done. Is you get a company like Exxon, for example, they'll come in and they'll invest the money, and they'll use their expertise, and they'll find it, and then what they'll do is they'll kick back a big chunk of the profit to the country, and then they make a profit off of what they're doing. Everybody wins. Colombia has been doing that. They've got Ecopetro, which is a Colombian company, but they typically will have 6 or 7 companies from other countries in the world that will also come in and invest money and drill and do those kinds of things. And that minimizes the losses for the people of Colombia. So if they're spending money on drilling and it turns out to be a dry well, nobody in Colombia had to pay for it. And so it's been a great thing for Colombia. Plus, Colombia up until recently was actually able to export oil and make a pretty good chunk of money off of that, which would offset a lot of things that they do here. So all of that's well and good, but you may remember that when Petro was running for office and came into office, he declared there will be no new leases for exploration for natural gas or oil. Now, the rest of the government doesn't agree with the idea that they're going to close down, because that was also one of his election promises for the climate change religion. So he doesn't have the government behind him to actually close things down. However, he has the ability to not approve new lease proposals. And since he's been president, there's been not a one that's been approved. And there's not a one that was, because they go by terms. So let's say Exxon comes in and they sign a contract, and for a particular operation, let's say it's 2 years. Well, when that comes up for renewal, it has to get approved. None have been approved. As a consequence, all investments in natural gas and oil from other countries has gone away. It's what made it work, and it's gone away. So we're running out of natural gas reserves. We're not running out yet, but we don't have enough oil to export like we could before. And we got nothing in the pipeline. These are things that need to be done a year, 2 years, 3 years in advance before you can capitalize on it. And you need that investment money in order to do these things because it's just expensive. And when you got a company out there, it's all they do and it's what they know how to do, and they can come in and get it done in a tenth of the time. It's certainly more efficient for them. It just doesn't make sense for a country like Colombia to just do all of those things, but it doesn't matter because nothing's being approved anyway. So this can be kind of a dramatic effect over the next year or two. I don't know where this is going to go. Hopefully there'll be some pressure put on to start, approving some new leases. I think it's kind of weird when you're, let's say, okay, we'll assume that this would help the climate. And Colombia is taking the first step. And Petra, who was in I think he was at one of the UN meetings, and he was getting a lot of praise for, his movements as such a progressive country, to help climate change. Let's say all of that is true. How does it help climate change? If that were to help climate change, how does it help climate change if you're still using natural gas, but you're buying it from other countries, such as Venezuela? Well, those processes are still going on. You're still using it. It's just that now you're paying way more, and all you're doing is hurting people. I mean, wouldn't it make sense that as you're putting resources into building more of these hydroelectric dams, which will further cut down on the need for natural gas, and it's a pretty reliable source, except when El Nino's, but even then it's still got an output, and that's the idea of creating more of these dams, is to cover times like that. Colombians are receiving a real benefit for the way it's always been operated, and all of that's going to go away, and gas prices are going to skyrocket. Availability is going to be a real problem, and instead of coming from this country to this country, it'll be coming from other countries. Just kind of doesn't make sense, unless you got somebody who is real buddy with the guy who runs Venezuela, which is a fact. That's not even speculation. That's a fact. So it's not great. So let me show you a few things about the dam. The dams. I'll show you the main area is in that yellow box there, and there's dozens and dozens of hydroelectric dams there. And kind of dial it in, see if you can. Now, on the left side of this, I don't know if it may not show up if you're on your phone. If you're on your TV, you should be able to see it fine. You're going to see yellow triangles, and there's a big one. There's a couple small ones. I'll save your eyes. There's 5 of those. Those are in construction right now. Then you got a whole crap load of white ones, white triangle, upside down triangles. Those are in various stages of planning. So, I mean, they're moving pretty quickly on this, and they already have. They've invested a ton of money in this, but it certainly isn't going to make up for, you know, the situation I've just described. So maybe, you know, hopefully what just happened with gas will give people a real sense of what could be the future. And I don't think people are going to want to be scrounging around for hunks of wood and drying it off as a regular routine. So, all right, enough of that. Texas Tater, what do you say here? The president of the USA did the same thing, shutting down the permits and pipelines. Yeah, it's kind of lunacy. You know, even if you accept the idea that that's going to do something, and even if you forget the fact that, you know, China and India are actually the real source of what they perceive as problems, wouldn't you at least wait until other resources caught up? Wouldn't that make sense? It's like, all right, so how fast can we get these other things online? I don't mean the, you know, the wind energy, because the cost of that's crazy because of the cost of maintenance and replacement. Solar, you've got all the chemicals that are actually coming out of China now for panels, solar panels, and for batteries. And the cost of that to the environment is far greater than any oil drilling. But, you know, even if you set all those things aside, you would still think that you would want to wait until you get some nuclear plants built that could take over rather than just turn off the spigot. It's kind of crazy. Now this may have come up with some of you, so I'll briefly mention it. Last week I talked about the new warning for Colombia, precautionary, don't go because of danger of kidnapping, which hasn't occurred here in forever, or bombs and things like that. Well, as I've told you all along, there's only dangers of those things in particular areas. And I tell you, it's on the border of Venezuela, it's on the border of Ecuador, not at the major crossing, but west of the major crossings. And it's an area in the Amazon, and there's an area between Ecuador and Cali in there. It's kind of dangerous. So there's very particular areas, but the thing is, there's nothing in those areas that you would want to go there for anyway. They're just kind of wasteland. But there was this last week, there was an attack with explosives in Tibu. That's Norte de Santander, North Santander. 2 police officers and a woman lost their lives. You could see the police car is just ravaged in this photo. So it definitely not a good thing. However, this is where it was located. And if you can see this, it's right on the border of Venezuela, not near any major metropolis. It's in exactly the areas that I explained to you. These are areas you don't want to go because that's where the issues are. So it's kind of like, as I said last week, it's like saying, don't go to the United States because downtown Baltimore is dangerous. The real answer is, yeah, you can go to the US, just don't go to downtown Baltimore or wherever those areas are. Here, there's 3 or 4 areas that are just really off the beaten path, no place that you really want to go anyway. But, you know, you could say, don't go to South Central LA, and don't go to Portland where Antifa's going to beat you up, and don't go to Detroit. But you can certainly go to someplace in Kentucky or in Florida, or, you know, things like that. So, you know, just keep that in mind. It's, yes, there are dangerous areas here, and there's dangerous parts of cities, but it's really no worse than other places. Yeah, it was a bomb, and 3 people were killed, and that's pretty tragic. but there's places all over the world that will have dozens of people killed on a far more regular basis. The reason it made the news and such a big splash is because it doesn't occur that often. Okay, so enough of that. I'm not supporting any of that kind of, violence, but I'm just trying to put some perspective on it. If it were some kind of imminent danger, first of all, I wouldn't be living here, and I would certainly tell you that. We didn't look at the webcam. Let's see what we got. There are low-hanging clouds. It's covering up several rows of mountains. But it's kind of a beautiful day, but it's very overcast, and it's wall-to-wall clouds. When I woke up this morning, I woke up at 2:30, spent a couple hours preparing for today, went back to sleep at 4:30, got up again at 6:30, and the fog was right up to the windows. I mean, you couldn't see a foot. It was just totally fogged in. And within a half an hour, that fog, it just kind of melted away. It just kind of peeled back further and further. So, all right, let's make it official. It's Q&A time. It's time to start asking your questions. Remember, 4 question marks first, then ask the question. I don't have half the viewers I normally would have. And I think that's because 1, there was no girl on the thumbnail. 2, there was no girl on the thumbnail. But the topic, for some people, they want to know that information. I knew going in that it's kind of a dry topic, and a lot of people could care less about what happens with natural gas in Colombia 2 or 3 years from now. Other people are going to be very interested in it. Now, what did I do? 1, I got an Instapot, so I used that once. I also, like many of the stoves here, will have the gas burners, but one of the burners will be electric. And I've got one of those. But a lot of people, they don't have that type. And if they're using the electricity is an expensive utility here, where gas is dirt cheap. And if you're living on a budget, you don't want to run up your electric bill over the course of a couple days. You're going to go out and find some firewood. So, Coleman, hi from Dallas. How you doing? Holiday weekend. Yeah, that's right. What is it, Memorial Day? I don't know. I run on different holidays these days. Oh, yeah. Maybe people shopping and making plans for Memorial Day. Yeah, it's probably a big cookout day for a lot of people. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. I just kind of assumed as I was putting together the topic, I've been doing this for Coffee Time, 5 or 6 years now, the Coffee Time. Been doing the channel for 7 or 8 years. And so after a while, you get to know, okay, certain topics are going to bring more people than usual in, and other topics, won't. And honestly, I cover topics whether they're going to or not. So, because I'm not getting, I'm not monetized on here anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I cover the topics I think are important. I think that's an important one. But I can tell you that traditionally speaking, that's a topic I usually wouldn't get a lot of people anyway. Mike Carroll, is there a way we can help Alejandra financially? Suggestions. Certainly could use it. I'm not sure how. Mike, if you're still watching, maybe you can put something together, or after after we do this video, we can get together and brainstorm and see if there's a way. I think she's got a Necky account and maybe a PayPal account. So, you know, maybe there's a way. I really don't know. I finally got my permanent resident renewal approved. Awesome. Actual permanent resident, not retirement. Yeah, I'm still, I've got time to go. I don't have to worry about it till this fall, but I'm still trying to figure out, does it make more sense now the way the rules have changed to, I think Mike brought this up to me. Does it make sense to just continue doing the 3-year that now that the residence is only 5 years anyway, costs more, you know, has a bit more requirement? I don't know. Travel warnings are a good way to keep the gringos from flocking to Colombia. That's true. Do you think Colombia will experience the same out of control prices as the US due to the new president shutting down the permits for drilling? We already have inflation, and we've talked about it a number of times. It's not as bad in the US, but the US is a different culture, different society. Things operate differently, and things that are paramount importance there, maybe lesser importance here. We've got really good public transportation that helps spread out costs like diesel costs or natural gas, or, you know, those kind of costs to a lot of people, you know, so that's kind of advantage. But people here are already getting killed. There are people here that are seriously suffering over the cost. When all of your food prices essentially double over the course of a year, or less than a year, that's pretty damn serious, because their income isn't doubling. Their income is basically flat. So that means they have less money to buy food. And, you know, food is going to come, you know, it's going to be, you know, food and rent. Those are your primary things. So if all your money is drawn to your basics, then you lose the ability to do anything extra. So that means those pair of shoes, you were going to go buy a new pair. Maybe you're going to figure out how to patch them up and get another year out of them, things like that. And for a lot of people, it's created a dire situation. Not good at all. And the thing is, you can live here and you can see it, and outside of some particular situations, in general, there's nothing you can do about it. You know, maybe you can help certain things. I don't normally like to talk about this, but I've had situations where I've put together packages of baby formula and diapers, and diapers cost a fortune here. You know, a lot of those basics, and put together, you know, care packages for some families that I've known about. But the truth is, you can affect a few people for a short period of time. What happens next month and the month after? And you just can't afford, I can't afford to do those things very, very often. I just don't have it to put out there. So it's sad to see. And you are seeing, not so much here in Armenia, but you're seeing crime escalating in Colombia in general, just like everywhere. And the saddest part is you're seeing a lot of suicides happening. It was a heartbreaking story. It was in the paper yesterday. A woman was found, 24-year-old, beautiful girl, was found dead on the banks of a river in Calarca. And the first thought was it was a violent death. They thought she was killed. But after they investigated, they found out real quick that her boyfriend, life partner, marriage has become less popular here. People are just living together, and they've got a baby daughter. So they've been together for a number of years. He committed suicide 3 or 4 days ago, and she's just been torn up and distraught. So now she committed suicide. So now you've got this baby girl who's left on her own. Well, with like Colombia, they both have extended families, but they felt whatever situation they were in, there was no way out. And then when he was gone, everything is on her shoulders, plus he's gone. You know, she was devastated, and she ended it all. She saw, you know, no hope, no future. And you're seeing a lot of suicides taking place. I won't try to spout the numbers, but I read something just in the last week or so, and it's in the thousands, where normally it's such a rare occurrence that it might be in the tens. You know, it just not good. Some of the most common sense videos I've seen about climate change says the poor will suffer the most. Obviously, always do. And even go as far as death for some of the people living at the poverty level. Yeah, but at the same time, you've got industries getting rich off of the climate change agendas. You know, these people that are putting up the wind turbines, for example, that, you know, we always thought, I'll include you guys, we always thought that wind would be a really good source of energy. It just kind of made sense until they've been out there for a number of years, and now we know that they're not. They're not reliable. They're constantly breaking down. They're extremely expensive to repair because the cost originally was far less than it's costing now to fix them up or replace them. It's turning out to be kind of a nightmare. You know, you got people say, well, it kills birds and they're ugly. Well, yeah, those things are true, but the real sin is that they're not all that effective. You know, water power is great. Water power is a good way to go. Nuclear, I don't know why countries aren't looking at nuclear. Germany just shut down their last reactor. I understand the reactors of 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago were problematic, but the reactors that they have now are self-contained units, and they're completely foolproof. And these units, when they run out of fuel, you can't refuel these things anymore. You take them out as a cartridge, and there's no radiation coming from them. And then you slide in a new cartridge. I don't know why they're not using these things. The science continued, but just the word, oh, nuclear, oh my God. Well, you know, we only have so many choices. There's only so many things we can work with. And the solar and the batteries is real problematic because everybody wants to forget about the cost of what it takes with the devastation that occurs to the planet from mining these rare minerals, the slave labor that's used in some countries for these minerals, the cost of the manufacturing that's usually done by coal to put these things together. I mean, there's nothing clean about it. And you can't even say it's sustainable because batteries have a shelf life. And there's a reason they're so damn expensive. I was reading, there was a Tesla battery, it's like $40,000. And you can get these things rebuilt, but you can't get them rebuilt back to 100%. And at some point, they can no longer get rebuilt. There's some place in Florida that's doing Tesla batteries for 10 grand. But I think they only have like 1 or 2 times that they can rebuild them, and they're trash. So ultimately, they're gone. Well, what do you do with these batteries now? They're extremely toxic. And how do you say it's sustainable when you use it, you can no longer use it, and it goes in a trash can? That's not the definition of sustainable. So I mean, people are fooling themselves when they're thinking that their Tesla is clean energy. It's far from clean energy. When you pull up to that pump and you're refueling your car, you have to remember that the electricity that's generated is most often done by coal plants. How does that make sense? Gasoline is cleaner. Why don't we just use gasoline driven vehicles than coal powered vehicles? But anyway, and I don't even say these things, I'm not mentioning politics in this. I'm just saying it's kind of common sense. And if you have any kind of science background at all, and you trace back the production of these things, you realize it's all a bad joke. However, you got a ton of people getting rich off of it, and the poor will always be poor and will always take the brunt of the hit. You know, they're the first ones to fall because they don't have the resources to protect themselves. Okay, we picked up a few viewers. I doubt it was because of my rant. Do we have any other questions? Do you have any comments? Are we done talking? This is a kind of a down depressing topic to me. It's not fun for me. But I suppose it's something that needs to be talked about. For all I know, it's probably on the list of YouTube's ban. We'll find out. But I still have my connection, and sometimes they throttle me back while I'm doing live. Anything else, or should we end it here? I know for some of you it's a holiday. For me, every day's a holiday, every meal's a feast. That was our slogan in the Marine Corps, you know, and it was just kind of sarcasm because your daily life kind of sucked, and so you just say, every day's a holiday, every meal's a feast. All right, last call. And no alcohol. Last call. Oh, I will tell you, I'm walking through the supermarket and I'm gathering up I'm getting some fruit, and I needed some milk and some basics. And I walk by this freezer section and I look down and here's this big old frozen turkey. Oh man, Colombia has a market for turkeys, but it's hit or miss when you find them. And you can always get turkey in the Costco thing. Help me. Oh my God, I'm losing my brain. Price Mart. But what you usually find there are like big drumsticks wrapped up, or turkey breast, or things like that. But a whole turkey, maybe around Thanksgiving if they haven't all sold out. Mr. Anonymous, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll find out who you are. So anyway, I see this turkey, and it just really hit me. I don't see a price on it, and that was kind of a mistake. But the urge was, oh man, I haven't had a turkey in a long time, and I got a nice big oven here in this apartment, which it's not very common to find. So I grabbed that turkey. So I go up to the cash register and I gave him my bank card, and I just didn't even see the price till I got home. And then I went into shock, kind of went into a meltdown. However, the upside of that is I cooked up that whole turkey, and it's me, and I cooked it up yesterday. Oh my God, this house smelled so freaking good. It was so, and I had a great dinner. I made up some homemade mashed potatoes, and I made some gravy, and oh man, it was killer. But the upside is I carve up that turkey, and I've got enough for about 8 to 10 meals, maybe more. I'm not sure, but so I sliced up all the turkey. I put it in a number of plastic bags. I poured the gravy into each of the plastic bags so they're all kind of soaked in gravy, so I can pull them out and I can make hot turkey sandwiches and things like that. So 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 all that's cool. Jeff, thank you. I appreciate that. He says, great show as usual. Thanks. I find myself really boring. I can barely stand to watch myself. I hate it if I have to go back over a video to try to find something because I just really annoy myself. But I appreciate comments like that. But I guess we never like, when you hear yourself on a tape recorder, it's like, well, that's not me. Yeah, and it's that kind of effect. Awesome meal. Oh man, I was so happy. It was ridiculously expensive. That turkey, I think it was in dollar. Well, maybe it's not expensive. I don't know, but it was about $40. But then I thought, well, if I get 8-10 meals out of that, I'm only talking $5 a meal. I mean, that's not bad. It was a shock because I'm kind of in this trying to save some money mode because the move, it was a lot of expenses, and I'm watching everything kind of go out the door. So so I get here and I get this turkey. It's like, oh my freaking God. So Libby asked how much. Rob asked how much. Not boring at all. Pretty educating. Yeah, especially about turkeys. But man, I'll tell you, when I was eating it yesterday, I wasn't sorry in the least. How many pounds? I don't know. I went by the size, and I figured about 4 hours, and it ended up being about 4 hours and 20 minutes cooking, and then I let it sit for a half an hour. So it would continue cooking out on the counter for a little bit. It's $2 a pound here. So I don't know, 14, maybe a 16-pound turkey. I really don't know. Like I say, I just cooked it by what it looked like, and it cooked absolutely perfect. So cooking it for 4 hours, cooked that turkey perfect at 350. So average of 228 per pound in the U.S. Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably cheaper there. Turkey has always been a relatively inexpensive item there. And I tell you, when I was in Ecuador, the turkey, I bought 2 turkeys over the 4 years I lived there, and they were around $60 a piece. And that was a real shocker. But okay. Well, we've run the course of the hour, run out of questions. Can't talk much more about the turkey. Maybe I'll have maybe I'll have a hot turkey sandwich with gravy for lunch. So we're going to end it here. I hope to have something new for you coming up this Sunday. If things work out, and I believe they will. So I can't tell you because I don't want to disappoint you, but hopefully you're going to have something cool to look forward to for this next week. Unless it's a butterball, I'm guessing you don't have all the preservatives like the US. I don't know, but it's a Colombian turkey. They have a market, and it was hecho en Colombia, made in Colombia. It didn't have the little pop-up thing. So I was kind of fingers crossed. I didn't want to overcook it and dry it out, but it didn't. It was whatever the weight is, 4 hours at 350 was absolutely perfect. I could probably backtrack that and figure out how much it weighed. All right, so we're going to end it here. Thank you all. I'll see you next week. Thank you for the contributions, as always. It's very much appreciated. And as far as Alejandra goes, I'll get with Mike and see if we can come up with something, because I know she needs it. Her motorcycle that she bought new, I think it was like 6 million pesos. She had saved a long time for it. It got devastated. Mike's trying to piece it together for her. I don't know how that's coming, but so I'll see if there's any possibility there. Okay, enough of that. Ciao.
Oh.